Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time you are coming in at. I am Heather Clark, your declutter expert, and today our topic is going to be a fun one. So it is Family Decluttering Challenge: How to Tackle Clutter Together. So this one's interesting because all of us have different ways of doing things. All of us have different ways, and whether it's 2 adults, 3 adults, 20 adults, kids involved, grandparents, whoever, we all have our certain ways of clearing the clutter, of making messes, of cleaning up messes, of this is important to me, but this is not. But why is that important to that person, but they don't care about this? So there's different ways that we all come and bring our stuff to the table, basically. And happy Wednesday, Sacred Yen Secrets. Happy Wednesday, yes. Yeah, so it's all a matter of coming together as a whole. So whoever's within the space, within the home, within, let's even say it's an office, let's say it's a workplace, anything like that, whoever's in that space. But I'm going to specifically today talk about the home, obviously, because we're talking about family decluttering and just being able to go together as a family and do this, as a whole, and not just, having a mess and then blaming and getting into arguments, because that's exactly what it is. So basically what you want to do is get everyone that's involved in the home or in that space and come together and make a plan. So understand that, say, hey, listen, we can clearly see that it's a bit of a mess here, or we can see that there is clutter in XYZ spots, places, rooms, whatever. Basically, have a conversation with them, have a family meeting and say, how does it make you guys feel? Are you guys okay with the mess? Are you guys okay with, whatever? You might actually be surprised to hear, especially with kids, that no, I don't like the mess, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where to start. I don't know. It's just too overwhelming, because that's usually what it ends up being, is for everyone, is it becomes too overwhelming. Because let's think about it as adults. When we're adults and we see it and it becomes overwhelming, we understand what feelings are. We understand what, the mental part of all this is. But if you have a young child, even teenagers, they're still understanding themselves and still trying to go through, especially teenagers, going through a whole new level of, um, changing their body, changing their brains, changing the chemicals and all that stuff. So for them to understand that their personal internal overwhelm is actually a reflection of what's going on around them, they're not going to understand that, because I can tell you by personal experience, not many adults understand that that is correlation. So we have to understand that with the kids and the teens. So I'm going to talk basically up to, the end of high school. Let's just all the way from itty bitties to all the way to high school. Those are the children I'm going to discuss today, because once you become an adult, it now becomes a different thing. You have different responsibilities. Maybe you're not even in the house anymore, whatever. But we're going to assume that your children are still going to be with you all throughout high school. And with that, when I say itty bitty, I mean we can start from when they walk. We can start from before, when they're crawling. And I know everyone's like, "Oh my god, how can you do that? Like, you can't get a kid to, clean the room." No, I'm not asking you to teach your child, your itty bitties, 1-year-olds to, clean an entire room. But if you're showing them from such an early age that this little toy that you were just playing with, here, let's go put it in this box. And it's always in the same box. Guess what's going to happen after a year or two? They're going to know that that box or that color, or what we used to do is put little pictures, because kids don't read yet. But I know I've seen a lot of people where they put the picture with the actual writing. Why that didn't come to my brain is beyond belief. But they'll put a picture with the writing because eventually they'll start to correlate those 2, that blocks. Let's just use something as easy as blocks. So these blocks, we're gonna do this. And even if that's the only thing you ever do with them for a month, it's going to build that repetitive habit for that child that they see that these blocks in particular, even at a year old, will go into this particular bin. When mom or dad say, okay, time to clean up, boom. And then that child will eventually get that habit of that's where it goes. And so when they're doing that, you are doing the rest of it because we know that blocks aren't the only thing that kids make a mess of. There's probably going to be 20 other messes. But if you can build that habit and that confidence for that child in the beginning, oh boy, does that help you with later on in life. Trust me, I've seen it with my own kids. I see it with the different, ways that we've interact with both kids because each child has their own way of doing things. Each adult has their own way of doing things. So you have to adjust as the adult or adults, depending on if you're a single parent, if you're with somebody in the same house, if there's, you're living with an in-law or living with your mom, dad, whatever, however it is. But the adults have a different way than the children have a different way. So we have to simplify it to the bare minimum for those children. Because if we tell you, not you, but if we tell the kids, go clean your room, well, what does that mean? What does that mean to you as the adult? Have you set a, basically a ground zero for what you as the adult expect the room to look like when they are done cleaning it? So that's another part, is giving those clear instructions. And you know what? Go and help them clean the room with them for the first time that, as they get older. Or you'll have to do this, maybe every 5 years because things change, or every year because things change. But go do it with them. And when it's said and done and up to, I'm going to call it your standards, take a photo, print off that photo, and put it in a place and say, hey, next time when the room gets a little messy, whatever, or, it's not exactly how you were expecting, because kids, listen, their brains go everywhere. They're not looking directly at, oh, there's so much mess. They just go, oh, I got this. Oh, I got that. And they'll play and play and play until all of a sudden there's like so many toys everywhere. Their bed's not made or whatever. But you hand them their picture that you took and you showed them that day how to clean it that way. You show them the picture and you say, hey, can we clean it to get it to this point again? Do you think we can do that? And you give them the option of, oh, yeah, and you let them sit about it. And you're like, oh, but if they tell you, hey, you know what? I don't know how to do that. Like, there's just too much stuff. Then say, okay, do you need help? Do you need me to help you clear this out so that you can focus on that? Or what do you want to work on first? And then make a game out of it. Here's the thing with the young kids, the teens, it doesn't work as well. Teens, it's more like money motivated. But with the young kids, you can make a game out of it. You can say, hey, do you think you can put all these toys that are on the floor, or pick up everything that's on your floor and put it away properly in the bins that we assigned, like that we gave them the last time before mommy or daddy or whoever's saying this does their desk or the kitchen sink dishes? Do you think you can do that? Who do you think is going to be first? Who do you think is going to finish first? And it becomes a game. And technically that actually motivates you too. Because now you're like, oh, this kid's actually got motivation. Because once you give them a game and once you say, like, listen, who do you think, and you give them a certain competition. Now, maybe that doesn't work with every child. Again, you got to work with your child or children and see what motivates them. Like I said, my one child is motivated by keeping things neat and tidy. My other child is very money motivated. Is the other child money motivated as well? Yeah, but hers is more she already likes things neat and tidy, where he's like, yeah, I know it's a mess, but meh. Like, he's got that meh attitude. And it's like, okay, what, if you clean your room, whatever, etc. Like, I don't want to do it. you go ahead and do it. I'm not asking for perfection. I never ask for perfection for my children. I ask for it to be presentable and that it's not with clothes all over the floor, with food or dishes, because I do allow them to eat in the room, which I know a lot of people are very against that. That's fine. We live in a bungalow. The kids are very good about it. And I said, you have 3 strike rule. If I find food in your room when you go, because dad and I are split, so they end up going to dad's on certain days and then they're here on certain days. So they have a 3 strike rule. My son is at strike number 2. He has one more. And then if he does not abide by that, whatever, you don't get any food in your room. And it's not forever. It's a, certain period. I haven't figured it out yet because we haven't gotten there yet. When I get there, I'll figure it out. I'm not in the mood to figure that out because I don't want to take that away. I'm not here to take things away from my kids. I'm here to help them understand the why. The why is it important? Why do I need to do this? Okay, so I did that with my daughter, and it's definitely made a huge difference. Now her room stays clean even more than my teenage boys. They're still a work in progress. And that's the thing. So here's the other thing. Gender does take a huge role in this. I have found that a lot of people have said that their daughters at a younger age, let's just say that, were more organized than the boys. And then sometimes it actually switches when it becomes the later teen years. Because I've also encountered people where it's the teen girl all of a sudden just is got so much stuff and so much whatever that just becomes overwhelming. But the teenage boy has started to go, yeah, I kind of liked it better when it was cleaner. Like my son, and that's the thing, like both my kids are very opposite, it's really funny how they interact, like even opposites in their astrology. But my son, very little in his room, very few things. Now, maybe that's purposely so that he doesn't have to actually clean anything. I don't know. And then there's my daughter who likes things. And I'm not saying like she's got a cluttered room or anything. It's just she does like to paint. So she likes to keep those paintings. She does have slime. She keeps the slime. And she's selling slime. So that's another reason why. But she likes her stuffies. She has a ton of stuffies. My son has nothing like that. The only toys he has are in a bin in his closet, and it's only because they're things that, I don't want to get rid of because he only has so many things that he's kept. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, I'd like to keep this just as a memorabilia because maybe later on in life we might want to, look back in this and be like, oh, look what you did when you were 8 years old type thing. But it's not much. But some kids are completely opposite of each other. You might have one that is absolutely 100%. You don't have to even say a word to them. And their place is already clean because they just like it that way. But then there's another child that is, oh my gosh, opposite, where they want to keep everything. They want to even keep sticks and rocks. And how many people do we have that have sticks and rocks in their lifetime that have come in and out of the house? Even I worked with a family that even she kept wrappers off certain things because for whatever reason. She just wanted to, she kept saying. But I'm like, I know that there's certain reasons why. And that's the thing. So I know that we keep things and kids keep things not because of the thing itself, but because of the emotional attachment to that thing or what that thing brought us in the moment. So let's say it was, let's just go with something as rocks and sticks. Okay. Kids like collecting rocks and sticks because chances are you went on an adventure with them into the forest and they collected those. So when they bring them into the room or into your home and they see them, they think back to that time because it made them feel happy. They got to spend time with you. They got to spend time with their brother or sister or whatever. And there wasn't any fighting. And it was an emotional, fun time for them. That's usually why kids keep whatever it is that they keep. To us as adults, it is as random AF. But to them, it's that emotional attachment, just like with us, just like with adults. We keep things that makes an emotional memory for us. But if somebody was to look at those 2 things, like I've used the example, like I've held up 2 pieces of paper and I'm like, "Does this paper mean anything to you?" "Well, no. It just looks like scribbles on the paper." "Okay. And what about this one?" "Well, yeah, that one looks like scribbles on the paper too." This one to me means a lot because it was my child that made that. It's a lion according to them back when they made it, where this one, yeah, that's just scribbles. I actually just did that before I talked about this. So both look very similar, but one meant something to me because it was one of my children that did it for me. So I kept that and it's packed away in a safe place. Actually, there's a couple of things that are in frames, which my kids laugh at. They're like, that just looks like scribbles. I'm like, cool. To you, it's just scribbles. It's actually your scribbles when you were this age. And that's a line. That's whatever. And they're like, how do you know? I said, because apparently you told me. I was like, there's a reason why. And if you're a parent with young kids or whatever, please put their name and the date that they did it, because it will save you later on in life. Because when you do find that piece of paper and you look at it and you're like, scribbles from was I testing out a pen? Was I testing? But if you see that you've put on that thing that it was so and so child on this date and this is what it is, perfect. Now you know that, oh, okay, great. And it's funny because even like with my kids, I've shown them, like I've got a book of I do scrapbooks, and I've got a book where there's a few things in there. And the kids just kind of laugh. They're like, I did that? That's funny. But it's a fun little chatting moment later on in life. But yeah, so with kids, making it a game is awesome because kids love games. It's actually even fun for you because, that part of, oh, who can do it first? It becomes fun for you. It becomes more urgent for you as well because you don't want your kid to finish before you do. I don't know if you're competitive, but I am. But that was the thing. And then the other thing is making sure that if they do complete that, what's a reward for them? Because some kids, they need rewards. Like my son, he needs rewards. He needs that. Why am I going to do this? What's in it for me? Because that's what kids are. They're all about what's in it for me. And we as adults have to understand that. They're all about them. That's all they know is their life. That's all they understand. That's all their brain can comprehend is what's in it for me. So let's make it what's in it for you. Okay, at the end of this, when we're done clearing out the house, let's all go for ice cream as a family. If you want ice cream, or let's go to so-and-so, or maybe if it's something that, let's go hiking. If they like hiking, don't make that. My son would not use that as a reward. He'd be like, that's work. I don't want to do that. But yeah, so my daughter definitely keeps rocks in her room and she likes many things, but she keeps things pretty organized. So I don't mind. And that's it. What is your threshold? Have you gone over that with your daughter saying, okay, and we get it. I like rocks too, and that's what my son calls them, but they're crystals and everything like that. And I have them, but I have them in a certain spot. But figure out what is that threshold. So do you have a threshold, or can she collect like 100 rocks and you're fine with it? The other thing is, okay, get to that threshold with that. Then what it shows your daughter too is, let's say it is 100 rocks. I'm just going to use a bigger number, and she wants to bring in that 101 rock. But you say, we've already discussed this. You're only allowed that, like we discussed and came to a number together. And that's this is all about coming together on the agreements of things. Come together on what you get rid of, come together on whatever, because if you just do it to them and you just clear out the room, guess what? You've just caused trauma for them in their adult life. Trust me, I've seen it. I've heard it. I've felt it myself type of thing. But yeah, so when you get to that point of she wants to bring that 101 rock in, well, you remind her and say, we discussed this before and we said that this was going to be our limit. So if you want to bring this other rock in, another rock has to go. So one in, one out after that number that is set. Now 100 rocks does add up, and maybe you only say 20 or whatever, just as I don't know how old your daughter is and all that stuff. Oh, and there you go. So what she just said actually is If it becomes too many, I tell her, "Let's put them outside in the garden," so it works, and that's great, that's perfect. So you do have that limit, but you also have a solution for her so that she can say, "Oh, okay, well, though if I have to put these rocks outside, what ones do I wanna come inside?" And you're allowing her to do that one in, one out on her own. You're allowing her to choose what's going to stay in, but also decide, "Okay, these ones can go outside." So I still have them technically, but they're outside, so I have to make sure that the ones that I have here, and that's usually what it is in my personal bubble, the ones that I really, really like, that have the sparkles, that have the colors, that have the whatever it is to a child. And again, like I said, I don't know how old your daughter is, but I know my kids love certain things and they love, like my son, we still actually have, we had a fossil one. So it has like different fossils, and we're not getting rid of that one because that one's cool. Like, to see different, like, to see something that made a fossil into a rock is absolutely one of the coolest things. That actually sits in one of my plants in the house because, and my son now, like I said, he's a teen. He's kind of like, I don't care about anything besides, money and girls, and that's it, and my friends. Um, but, when he was younger, and he still looks at it, he's like, "Oh, that's actually kind of cool." And it is very cool to just see certain things and to just look back at, the things that they did when they were kids, and, certain, um, art things that they did or whatever, and it's fun for them because it becomes another family time, another family moment. Oh, she's 9, okay. So you just said she's 9. So yeah, so 9 years old. So she's getting to the point where she's learning to be independent. So it's very, very important to her that she does get choice in things, and that's amazing that you've done that for her because of the fact that like, when kids are younger, they just do as they're told because that's just what they know, that's just whatever. But when they get to a certain point, they're starting to become independent. So, like, that really preteen part, that really whatever. So giving them this opportunity to declutter their own space, to make it their own, is huge for their confidence, for their pride, for it builds the trust. So you can trust them that they're going to do it, and they trust you that you're going to allow them that independence. And that's a huge thing because as much as we think, "Oh, this is just clearing stuff," it's a whole lot more than that. It's a habit we're building for the children. It's a habit we're building for ourselves. And it's going to take your kids throughout their entire life, for when they're adult, they're teens, they're, having their own family, they become, later on in life and stuff like that. It's a habit you're building now for later. So when we're doing this, patience, whole patience is needed. I get it. We want things done in 10 minutes, and oh my God, it can end up taking 10 hours. But to rush a child and to push them past certain areas, like, yes, put them past their comfort zone. We all need that a little bit. But to push them so far past that it actually regresses the progress isn't going to help anybody in any point, and it's going to cause an emotional thing to that, and it's going to cause them to break down internally, and then you'll see it externally where they're going to freak out. They're going to start crying. They're going to scream. They're going to fight with their siblings. They're going to fight with you. It's totally like, it's crazy because they don't understand what's going on internally. Like I said earlier, they don't understand that as much as us adults do. We understand it because we've been through so many years and so many decades of trying to figure this out. I wish there was certain times where I was like told as a kid that, "Oh, this is why this is happening." But I wasn't. I had to figure it out on my own. Well, now I'm trying to teach my kids, like, "Listen, I get it. Like, this is a mess. Your room's whatever." I said, "Is anything going on?" And I've done that with when they were kids too, actually. So I'm not gonna say details or like who, but we noticed that there was, a different way that the child interacted. There was a different way that the child was interacting, not just with us, but with friends, with teachers, with whatever. And just so I did one day, I've actually got pictures of it because I still use this as an example, and I will always use this as an example. Is I was like, "Forget it. This has nothing to do with anything besides the fact that this child cannot understand their emotions." I said, "There's no way I'm gonna," like, they get to a certain point where it just becomes you can't console them, you can't figure it out, you can't talk to them. So I was like, "Screw it." And we were in our old place, and I just said, "We are going to clean the entire place." It wasn't just that child I made. I said everybody. So I said, "Let's go. We're gonna all clean this." And I'm talking, we vacuumed, we pulled out couches, we turned up the carpet, we got underneath, we were whatever, got everything organized, tossed toys that weren't, used anymore, and we didn't toss them, we actually gave them away. Um, Everything, like, I'm talking, like, down to the fact that I was scrubbing the counters, the tables, the whatever. And then later on in that evening, that child was able to tell me what was going on. That child was able to express now because as we were cleaning, it was very therapeutic for them. And as we were cleaning, they were able to process what was going up here because that's just the hand to object, hand to pen, pen to paper type of thing. It absolutely like, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, but I've read about these things that it absolutely has a connection to clear out the emotions and the mental part, and that's why I say start with the physical clutter, because then you're gonna be able to get out the emotional and the mental and the spiritual as well, because sometimes it's that when you see the physical clutter, that's when you should go, "Huh, is there something else going on in that child or that parent or whatever's or that other adult's life that they just can't process? They don't know how because it is so overwhelming. All right, let's just do this. Let's let's do a family thing. Let's do a family weekend of decluttering or family hours. So let's say like from, 1 to 5, this is what we're doing. And then after that, we'll go out for dinner. When we're done, we will go out for dinner as a family because it's a special, and obviously make it in your budget, in your, means as well. Like make sure that everyone's on board, that you're not clearing stuff out of the children's or the partner's life without them knowing. It absolutely does. I've witnessed it even with myself. Yeah, we were talking about she was just talking about the fact of, that the physical part, does help and everything like that. So, yeah, it absolutely does. Like there is no doubt in my mind. You cannot convince me otherwise because I have had it with myself. When I know that I can't process something, when I can't emotionally or figure out like why is this not working, whatever, I go and clean. I go and clean the windows, like, I did a spring clean the one time because I was like, "I don't I can't figure this out, like, what's going on?" So I was like, "You know what? Forget it. Don't try and figure it out. Don't try and put logic to this. You know this is all mental. You know this is emotional and spiritual. This is something that you need to." I said, "So I did something physical." And, you may not need to clean. Maybe you already have a clean house. Go do something physical, because again, it's physical clutter. So physically, whether let's say it's you wanna go to the gym, it's something physical so that you can process the mental, emotional, and spiritual stuff. It starts with the physical so that you can clear out the rest, or you can bring all that stuff to the surface, or bring understanding to all that, the rest of it, and then be able to go, oh, that's what that was. I saw that. I remember seeing that. I did this and it didn't work out the way I wanted it. Oh, okay. Can I let that go? Can I let that shame, that judgment of myself go because it didn't exactly work out the way I expected it to. That's all this works out. That's is how I'm tripping over my own words. This is how it works out is it's attached to something that we have to clear out. And once we clear it out, it's like, "Oh, okay, that's what it was." It's as simple as that. And I know it's like, "Oh, well that you make it sound so simple, Heather." But it really is. When you take it right down to the bare basics, and that's why you do with your children. You take it down to the bare basics where you say, "Go make your bed. Go put the bed spread like this. Go put the pillows up on the thing," and you give them details of how you want it. Take a picture of how the bed should be made. And then you even if it like I said, if it's young kids, put it in a little booklet, a little photo booklet. Because sometimes you might be surprised that when you do that and they're going through their photo booklet, they kind of look, "Oh, it doesn't look like that. Oh, let me just go do it." So they start doing it themselves because they see what they're looking through books because kids love photo books and photo albums and everything like that. And you'd be surprised. You'll all of a sudden walk by the room and you'll see that they're making their bed. They weren't told to make their bed, but they made their bed on their own. Oh, all right, cool. And you're like, and you, and it depends on your child. Sometimes when you give the praise of, oh, thank you for making your bed, then they might actually break down and say, like, forget it, I don't want to do that again. But if they need praise, and you'll know your child better than anyone else, if they need praise, give them praise. If you know that giving them praise because they just did something or whatever doesn't help them, then don't do it. Just kind of go and take a mental note and just be like, cool. And then later on go, hey, I really appreciate the fact that you actually did your bed, because doing it later doesn't stop it in the motion. That's what I've noticed with, like I said, both my kids are totally different. I've noticed that if I do it in the moment, a child shuts down. The other child, if I do in the moment, they're like, yay, and they love it more and they'll continue to do more and they'll do another section. So again, it's knowing your child, knowing how they receive the praise, and maybe they have to receive it later. And maybe it's just a, oh, hey, here you go. And they're like, well, what's this for? And it's like, oh, I noticed that you made your bed, so thank you. I just wanted to say thanks. And you handed them like a chocolate bar or something like that. You talk their language. You don't talk adult language to a child. You talk child language. You cut it down to different steps. And if you have to, use a clipboard. I used, excuse me, for my kids when they were, I think my daughter was maybe 3, and therefore my son would have been like maybe 7, 8. Pardon me, sorry. I had clipboards, and I mean, I had clipboards to the point of, okay, you wake up, make your bed, brush your teeth, brush your hair, get dressed. Like, I broke down in steps. And the reason why I did that is because every time they did it, they got to check something off. That might be enough of a reward for a child that they'll continue. And then we had an evening one where it was, get your pajamas on, read your book, brush your teeth, do this, say goodnight to the whole family is basically what one of them was as well, because there was times where like the child would just go to bed and we wouldn't even know. And we're like, what? Hi. Like, you want to say goodnight? Oh, yeah. No, I just thought you knew it was, because they knew at a certain time they had to go. Because again, that was the very, you know, didn't need to remind that child to do certain things. They just did them. And then when we're like, where did the kid go? Like, it's bedtime and they're already in bed. And you're just like, well, you didn't say goodnight. So that was part of their checklist as well. So it was just really funny. Like, that was just a funny one just for me as an adult now. But then later on, and what I did was I actually laminated those checklists, by the way. I laminated those checklists and they used wipe erase markers. I have pictures of it. I actually gave them those checklists away when they were older because they didn't need them anymore, because they got into the habit. And not only that, but certain things changed. Now, as my son is getting older and becoming the teen, and my daughter's getting older as well, she's younger than he is, but it's adjusting to their lifestyle now. It's adjusting to them, and it's making it work for the whole family, not just for them, not just for you, but the whole family as one. And if that means that you have to come back together and do a family meeting about it and say, hey, cool, I notice that this has happened and this has started to get dirty again or cluttered again. Is there something that you just don't want anymore and we can actually give away? Is there something that I can help you and be, let's say it's as simple as, okay, they keep having clothes on the floor. Is it as simple as just adding a basket into their room and then them putting it into the basket? And then that's all they have to do is they just have to, that's their responsibility. You give them that responsibility and you don't do it for them. That's going to be the biggest thing for a lot of us adults, is not doing things for the child, but allowing that child, we can remind them, but not doing it for them, because doing it for them doesn't teach them the habits. It just teaches us the habits to, have to do something else for somebody else. And not only that, but do you really want to do that and continue to do that when you already have enough to do for yourself? You don't want to do it for the adult. Why are you doing it for the child? So everyone gets the responsibility of their own, let's say, clothes bringing into the laundry. And you as the person say, okay, here's what, even if you have to split those things up and just say, okay, on this date, you're going to collect all of the laundry on this date. And the other child or other adult or whatever, it honestly, again, all of this, I could talk about this forever and ever and ever because there is so many options, so many ways, so many different things to think about when it comes to the family because there's more of you. Maybe there's only you and the other, you and a child. Maybe you're a single parent and there's just you and the child. It's different than if somebody was two parents together with five kids or six kids or four kids, even. Like everything, and you have to adjust. And all four of those kids are not going to be the same. They're not going to do everything the same. So you have to come together as a family. And if that means coming together and doing a family meeting and saying, listen, how do you want this to look? Because this is how we as the adults would like it to look. Okay, you don't want to have to make your bed every day. Well, the reason why we want it, and explain it to them. The more you give, of the why to your children, the more they'll understand, oh, so you're not doing it just because. You're not doing it because you're a mean parent. You actually want to teach me ways so that when I go on my own, now, again, a 4-year-old's not going to understand this as much as a 14-year-old because a 14-year-old is closer to being on their own. And you want to teach them and you understand that it's not going to happen overnight, that it's going to take time. And that's where the patience comes in, and the patience for yourself, for others around you has to come in. Because like I said, this is not just a race. Like this isn't a race. This is a lifetime marathon that will have to happen again and again. So yes, you got your whole entire house as a family together. Beautiful. Exactly how everybody in the house can function. And then something happens in life. And then you realize the clutters come back. Okay, as a family, whoa, let's go and do this again. Can we adjust to this life altering situation? Or, maybe it's not life altering. Maybe it's just a situation where, somebody in the family's sick so that you didn't get to the dishes last night. So now they've piled up and then this person, blah, blah. Well, maybe you're taking it more on mentally and emotionally than your partner, or maybe the kids are taking it more mentally and emotionally and spiritually on than you give them credit for doing that. Maybe that item or that person being sick in the hospital or whatever is affecting them more. And so therefore their room's getting a little messier, their whatever. You'll notice those little things when you start to pay attention to them. And it's okay. That's part of life. That's what we have to understand. This is all part of life. These chaotic moments, these transitions, these new baby. Oh, mom's pregnant now. Oh, well, now a new baby's coming into the house. Now I go from, having just one sibling, I'm going to have another one. What does that mean for the child? That's a change in the environment. So you might see their room change. They leave messes because they're thinking about that child. They're thinking, what does this mean for me? They're thinking whatever, and they're not thinking about the mess that they just left behind, where you automatically go, you just left that mess behind. Why? And they're like, oh, and then it aggravates you because of the fact that they just left a mess and just looked as if they didn't care. But that's not because they didn't care. It's because their brain was somewhere else. Because as a child, it still affects them. And we need to understand that that absolutely is something we need to focus on as a whole. That's why I said it's not just one. It's not just you doing it. It's not just your partner. It's not just the kids. It's everyone as a whole doing it together and understanding together that, yes, we have it here at this point. A month from now, 6 months from now, we might need to change it because something, we need to adjust at that point. Maybe it's just adjusting for the weather. Like, honestly, every spring and every fall, we adjust here in this house, and most Canadians and most northern US and anyone who goes through 4 seasons of weather, that is where chaos comes in. Because you're going, what's the weather now? What's this? What's that? And you got like 20 million jackets because 8 a.m. in the morning versus 11 a.m. in the morning versus 1 p.m. in the afternoon versus 8 p.m. in the evening. They're all different temperatures. So you have 4 different jackets at the moment. But then all of a sudden, a month or 2 down, okay, now we can actually officially get rid of the winter stuff and pack it away and put it away. And now everyone's adjusted to that. And then in a couple more months after that, well, now the cold weather is back. Like there's just so many different things. And this is why it's like change. You're decluttering for change because change is always going to happen. So it's just a matter of coming together as a whole, as a family, adjusting to each individual's way of doing it, and you're not going to know that until you ask. So ask family meetings, ask them individually, ask them when they're lying down in bed and you're reading a story. Instead of reading a story, say, hey, when, mommy and daddy or mom or dad or whoever, or aunt or uncle or grandparents, totally family dynamics. I appreciate them all. When we ask you to do this, but you instantly get angry, is there a reason for that? Like, does it overwhelm you? And those are the times that you want to say those things because the child is more receptive because they're not doing anything in their middle, like, in the middle of the day when they're not playing with their toys. They're relaxed. They're wanting to, this is why I always love having conversations with my kids at night, right before bed, because they know that it's time to wind down. They know that their brains can, talk to you about things that are on it. So, very helpful tips. Thank you for your advice and tips. I'll definitely be implementing. Well, you're very, very welcome. I'm glad that they could help. And that's it. That's why I'm doing these things. That's why I'm doing these videos, is because I just want to be able to help you. And maybe something that I've said that maybe you've heard 20 million times, but somehow when you're listening to the video that I state, it triggers something. It's something different for you, and you go, "Oh, yeah." And not only that, but how many times of these every time you hear a video or if you're listening to the, replay and stuff like that, you go, "Huh," and you look around and you want to declutter. It's inspiring to declutter, to hear these things, to open up the conversation with the family, to open up ideas of what to do with your family. So, that is all for this one for now, because like I said, I could talk about this for hours. So the next time I'm live is actually not until Wednesday, June 7th. So that will be the first Wednesday of next month, which is actually 3 weeks from now. But we're doing the first and the third Wednesday every month, even if it has 5 weeks, doesn't matter. And then again, it's still at 10 a.m. EDT time. Say that 5 times fast. So until then, take care. I'm not sure what the topic is yet because, again, it is 3 weeks out, but chances are it will be a follow-up to this family decluttering and stuff like that, just because this is such an important one for kids, for the adults, for everybody. But yeah, until then, we will see you. Take care.